Hello everyone, Adam and Josh here from Crossover Games.
How we doing?
We are here today to discuss the 58 pre-constructed decks that have been printed since Ikoria, including Ikoria.
Commander 2020, yep.
58 decks, Josh.
We're
here.
Quite
we're
a
here.
bit, yeah.
And we're going to rank them. We're going to rank them in 6 different tiers. We don't have those tiers named, so just be tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll probably, label each tier as we go as to like the power level of each one.
Yeah, we'll give you the basic number range for power scale, I think. Yeah.
Yep, we're going to rank them in 6 different tiers, 58 decks. So let's dive right in, Josh. What do you say? What do you say? What's your now? When we go to the tiers, they're not in any particular order except they're in that tier.
Yep.
So we did it. We tried to do it in like sections of 9 or 10 decks per tier because there's 58 of them, and we didn't want this to be 40 minutes, which it's likely going to be anyway.
And break it up a little bit, make it a little bit easier on us.
Yeah. So where do you want to start?
Well, with all that said, I did have to put as our number 1 tier 1 pick the Eldrazi Unbound Precon for Commander Masters. It's got
seems sensible to me.
Shuladoc at the helm, which lets you cascade twice off of your colorless spells, and it's just, I think, one of the strongest decks out of the box we've seen in a while. Yeah.
Well, the price shows.
For sure.
Not a ton of great reprints, but the deck is bringing a lot of just powerful
There's some
cards
very strong,
to the deck.
Very strong new colorless cards. There's that little flash insect that's busted. It's gonna be cool to see.
Yeah. At time of recording, those decks aren't out yet, but we had the ability to proxy them up and play them. So we know.
I've been playing against it for quite a while now.
Yeah. We kind of know what those decks are capable of.
Shuladoc is absolutely insane. Yeah, for sure.
It's gonna be quite good. What's the next one in your tiers?
All right. So number 2 on tier 1, we have the Planar Portal.
Planar Portal
from the Dungeons and Dragons.
Is that the black-red deck?
It is. It is Prosper.
Prosper, yes.
This deck's all about treasure tokens and casting stuff from exile, and just goes really nutty, really quick. You find yourself with a lot of resources just out of the box. Synergize as well.
Yeah, I've actually played against that. Spencer bought that.
Yep.
So I've played a bit against it. I can totally see why it's on this list out of the box at the top.
Really enjoy Prosper. Yeah, I kind of busted actually.
Yep. Our next deck on the list is Necron Dynasties from the Warhammer 40k Precon set from, was it early this year or was it late last year?
I want to say it was late last year.
I think so. Maybe not. I don't know. There's so many, 58 of them, right? 58 in the last 2.5, 3 years. So
gotta jumble them all up there, yeah. This is the mono black one from that rotation of Precons, and it's all about artifacts, and more specifically, artifacts in your graveyard.
Yeah. Super powerful. If we were to rank these outside of the tiers and like rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 58, this has got a fighting chance to be the best deck, the best Precon power level wise of all time.
It's top 3 for me. Definitely at least top 3. And this is the first one that we're going to mention where I play it without the face commander. I play it with the backup commander, Emotech the Stormlord, which will just generate more bodies a lot quicker, give you more unearth value.
Yep. Our next deck in Tier 1 is Obscura Operations.
This is from Streets of Kupang.
Yeah, right? Streets. I almost said Strixhaven. This is a Streets. This is certainly the best one from that.
I would
setup.
definitely say so. This is like Esper aggro. It's Connive for your card advantage. You're giving double strike. You're giving unblockable. It's just really strong out of the box, and it held its own with those Capenna commanders, and it's held its own outside of that as well.
Absolutely. Here's a shocker to me. The next one on our list is Food and Fellowship from the Lord of the Rings pre-constructed decks.
This might be some recency bias, and this also might be some ownership bias, but I bought the Food and Fellowship deck, and it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
The face commanders are a whole different strategy, one that I don't enjoy. So I play it with Pippin and Merry, who are the backup, and they let you turn food into a repeatable overrun effect that gives your creatures haste.
No kidding.
So if people ignore you while you just make your little munchies, you'll do just fine.
There you go. And then our second set of 5 decks for Tier 1 is the Undead Unleashed deck.
This is from Innistrad, Midnight Hunt?
Yeah,
Yes, Midnight Hunt.
It's the blue-black deck from there, right?
Will help the Rock Cleaver at the front.
Yes, yep.
And this one is just all about cycling through your zombies and your zombie tokens to make more zombies, more value, draw more cards. It's just a very value-centric tribal Dimir deck, which I find interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have any experience at all, so I got nothing on this one. The next one on this list is Elven Empire.
This was one of the Kaldheim decks?
Yes. No.
Yeah, I believe
it was Kaldheim.
It was
Yep.
Kaldheim. And this was our first...
This is the best deck for your money if you could buy this deck at MSRP.
This is our first $20 pre-constructed.
20 or 25.
Yeah.
I forget what the retail was back then. But yeah, this is by far the best deck you could buy out of the box for that amount of money.
Elves go burr. I mean, there's not much else to say. They tap for mana. They ramp you a lot quicker than your opponents, and Elf Ball. That's really all I have to say. There's not much to explain.
If you go look up at the price on any online marketplace right now for this deck, it's $60-$70. So
it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably still worth even that.
Yeah,
it's probably still solid
strong,
because with MSRPs going up and up and up on these pre-constructed decks, now they're like the Warhammer ones and the Lord of the Ring ones are all $60.
Yeah.
One could argue that this deck is better than all of those decks.
It's up there.
Even still at even if you had to buy it at $60 today.
It's definitely up there with those other ones, and it doesn't have the crutch of making like 30 new cards like those theme decks did.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Next on our list, this was surprising to me, Urza's Iron Alliance. This is a precon from the Brothers War. Only 2 in that set, which surprised me.
This is the Artifact Creatures Matter deck. So this is all about aggro, and you make your Urza tokens, like from Urza's Saga, those types of tokens. And you're just growing your army. It's just really a simple, straightforward strategy, and sometimes those are the best out of the box.
Yeah. For beginners, it's certainly the way to go, or even just returning players. And if you're a returning player and you're from way back in the day, then that might excite you. Because Urza is from
Urza's
the very
OG,
beginning. Yeah, from the very beginning.
First. Yeah.
So, no surprise here. Another Warhammer 40k deck, Tyrannid Swarm.
This is another one of my personal favorites. This deck can go in a couple different directions. Should you choose to play the Swarm Lord, that's all about... It's almost like Temur Aristocrats, like you want your counter creatures to die, so you just keep churning through your deck.
Right.
Whereas Magus, the backup commander, who I play, is all about X spells and having a lot of copies and just bodying the table on one effect.
Yep.
Very strong.
Rounding out our top tier is Lorehold Legacies. I have no information to give other than it's from Strixhaven.
Yep, this is the Strixhaven Boros, a Boros in the top tier. I'm pretty happy about that. Strixhaven Boros Artifacts deck. This one is all about sacrificing your big scary artifacts using Osgir the commander to make 2 copies of them.
I am familiar with Osgir, yeah, now that you say it.
Yep.
I didn't know that he came from there.
This is his deck. This is where he came from.
Yeah, this is where he began.
I called it Artifactocrats. It's what this kind of deck wants to do.
Yes, sir. Ready to roll into Tier 2?
Tier 2 sounds good to me.
Tier 2, here we go. We're starting out with Reap the Tides. This is probably the first couple of decks on this list probably could have been in Tier 1.
Yeah, you could probably have a couple that go up and down that float around there. This one's very strong. This is another one of those $20, $25 precons.
There's 2 of them in the top couple here, as you can see.
This one's from Commander Legends.
Yep.
It's Aisi, Tyrant of Gyre's Straits, which basically is a double Tatiova.
Did they have a backup commander in the $20, $25 ones?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm pretty sure like Tatiova came in that deck.
Right.
And Tatiova is just a smaller version of Aisi. It's Simic lands. There's not much else to say. It's landfall, play 30 lands on turn 10, and you just win the game.
There you go. Simple enough.
Yep.
Let's move into a deck I have a lot of experience with.
I want to hear what you have to say about this one.
The Sliver Swarm precon. It's yet to be released at time of recording, but again, we've played with it. The mana base is awful.
Yeah,
this would have been a Tier 1 deck if there was just better fixing. Doesn't even have to be more expensive fixing. And Triumphs probably are more expensive, but than the mana they put in, obviously, because the mana they put in is $5, and you can buy the whole mana base for this deck.
Yep.
But reprint equity, kind of blah, but the the power level of the new cards that they put in it, very good. Not just for slivers, but in general. At time of recording again, pre-order price on this thing is like $120.
Yeah, the biologist is the one.
Yep, that's the one I'm interested in.
Yep.
The backup commander that allows you to play another tribe. Well, doesn't allow you. You can do whatever you want, but it makes it matter. I've talked to Josh about the world tree with the gods.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty fun.
I'm going to try. That's exactly what I'm going to build with this. I think if the mana base was better in this deck, this would have made it to the tier 1.
I think so as
But
well.
you can only cast spells that you can cast. And if half your hand is uncastable, this deck is not good.
And I'm not the biggest fan of its face commander either. I think that you play Raku.
I am a fan of the face.
The Encore lady.
I am. Playing with it a bit. I
haven't played with it yet, so
I find it to be. I mean, it's not the first sliver, right?
No.
It's not Sliver Overlord.
No.
But it's not.
It's no Sliver Queen.
It's no Sliver Queen either. In our local meta, we don't play with infinites, so Sliver Queen's kind of bad. So it probably is Sliver Queen. It's probably Sliver Queen, right?
It's right
solid.
on par. Right on par.
It's sold of. Another deck that I'm familiar with is the next one on our list.
Oh,
and
Cousin
that's,
George. Yeah.
Sneak Attack.
This is another of our $20-$25 ones from Zendikar Rising.
And this one you can still attain for close to that number.
Yeah, this one's pretty.
As a matter of fact.
It's really good out of the box. This is the Anawan the Ruin Thief deck.
Yep.
It's all about rogues and milling your opponents. And
In no particular order.
no particular order. Out of the box, the curve feels pretty decent. It kind of has a top-heavy end with, like, In Garrick's Wake and a few other weird board wipes like that.
It is weird.
But it hits fast, and if you lock onto someone, they will die before you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Really solid in 1v1.
Very good in 1v1,
I find this to be... I know we didn't really talk about 1v1 in the previous decks that we've gone over, but this might be the best one on the whole list as far as a 1v1, if that's your jam. If it's just you and the missus or you and a buddy that are just kind of playing kitchen table and you want a good tier 1 deck that isn't expensive, this would probably do it out of the box.
Definitely between this and some of the Voltron commanders that we've talked about too.
Yep. Next on our list is another Strixhaven deck, Quantum Quandrix. Strixhaven deck.
Yep.
Is this the green, blue,
It is
other
the green
color?
Blue. It's just green blue.
It's just green, blue.
This is the Tokens Matter deck. This is the Adrix and Neb, which is doubles tokens.
Yep.
Ward 2. So this is just Tokens Matter. Not much really else to say. Classic Simic strategy. Throw in your doubling seasons and parallel lives.
There you go. Nothing expensive there.
Have a fun time, you know. It's just
Nothing expensive there, kids.
there.
This slide, the last one we have is Aura of Courage. If I'm not mistaken, that's a Adventures in Forgotten Realms pre-constructed deck.
This is one of those Voltron ones that we were just talking about. This is the Galia, Kindler of Hope. And she lets you play your auras and equipments from the top of your deck and attach them to her for free.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
I think I've played against this before. Probably not the Precon, but...
I'm pretty sure Cousin George has this one as well.
Cousin George probably has all of it.
Yeah. This is just, it's Bant, so you have a little bit of control mixed in there. It's pretty fun to play. I like this deck a lot.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the next set of 5 in Tier 2. And we'll begin with Coven Counters. And this is an Innistrad Midnight Hunt deck.
This is the opposing one to the...
This is the green-white guy.
The zombie one. It's the opposite. Yep. So this is the humans and counters.
As bad as that set was, they did make 2 good precons.
2 very good precons.
Yeah.
This deck with a little bit of manipulation, you can switch to the backup commander, which is what I prefer. That gives all of your creatures +1/+1 for each counter on it, and that's Kyler. I think going that route, it's like not go little, not go wide. It's like go medium. You just have like 4 or 5 really big things that you're just always turning sideways.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
I like
and next is Forces of the Imperium. Another Warhammer 40k deck.
Yep. This one...
Is this the Esper deck?
Yep. This one, the face commander is Inquisitor Greyfax, which just makes clues and taps down your opponent's things. Scrap that card. Card bad. Marneus Calgar just makes the deck function completely. The deck wants to make tokens. You're drawing cards when you make tokens. You're going wide. And it's just Esper aggro. I feel like that's the direction that Esper's been going in lately.
Yeah, that's the second time you've mentioned that about a deck.
It's very strange.
Next on the list, it's a Jeskai deck. Riders of Rohan.
Jeskai aggro.
Jeskai aggro. I was just going to say.
Lord of the Rings Eowyn deck. It's human tribal. You want to make humans, because your commander makes 2 whenever a human enters in combat. It's really gross.
Yep.
hit hard, hit fast, get the Monarch a lot. Just deck's really good. It's actually, a little tidbit. This is probably the deck that I'm gonna try to get.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Next up is Party Time.
Party Time.
I don't remember this one.
This is from Baldur's Gate, the second D&D one.
Okay, is this the black-white deck?
It is.
Okay.
I think this is the best from that cycle.
It's the first time we mentioned a deck from that cycle,
True,
so that is our
true.
opinion. Yeah.
It is the... This is another one where the face cleaner, like, it's okay. Nali de Arnis, it doesn't quite give you card advantage. But this set also introduced the backgrounds. So the backup commander is a black creature and a white background, and those two together give you card advantage and mana ramp.
Gotcha.
So that's going to be the way to go. Barakos and Fulkira.
Fair enough.
Out of the box, very good.
And the last one in Tier 2, Ruthless Regiment.
This is another Ikoria one. Yep.
I'm not familiar with this
This
one.
is a Mardu Human Tribal. This one, the face commander lets you create a 1/1 for each time you've cast your commander, then gives a flat +2/+0 buff to humans. Jarina Kudrow. You can completely ignore her and play the two backup partners, Trin and Sylvar, and make this a really sick Aristocrats deck. And out of the box, not even without upgrades, it's good to go just like that. Yeah.
Sweet. All right, so here we go. We're
Tier 3.
moving into Tier 3 land.
This one's all you, I think.
Well, the first deck is. The first deck in Tier 3 is me. Definitely a deck I'm familiar with. So we'll kick things off with Arcane Maelstrom. The face commander of this deck is Calamax, the Stormsire. 4/4. When you tap him, you copy things. You copy instants, and it's once per turn, and it's only the first one a turn. And yes, I have this built to the hill. This is my pet deck.
You got our full Monty.
The Precon is right where it is. It's a middle of the road.
I think it's
Precon.
a good spot for this Precon. Yeah,
It's right in the middle of the road.
The Precon has a weirdly high concentration of sorceries when you want to be casting instants. However, it's still playable. It can still hold its own better than the other decks in that rotation. So, yeah.
Yep, that's all there is. He is it's one of the few commanders that is good that is those colors, green, red, blue.
Oh, Teamer.
Teamer.
I don't know about that.
He's the best of the
I
best.
don't know about that.
Best of the best.
Out of the box, just to mention too, the Paco and Haldan Precon, or Paco and Haldan partner commanders, are a little bit stronger out of the box until you have time to really work through your upgrades.
And I believe the Ikoria decks had a third option for commanders as well. It's the Insect guy. And that one actually, if you go on like websites, you can find...
Oh yes,
pretty
Xyrus.
Yeah.
As the Precon commander, it's not one of my favorites just because it wants your opponents to be drawing cards and your deck doesn't quite want to do that. But as a standalone commander, awesome card. Big fan.
Yep. Next up is Enduring Enchantments. This is again at time of recording, a new deck from Commander Masters.
This is the Abzan Anakhthea. This wants your enchantments to go to your graveyard, be exiled from your graveyard, and now become zombie tokens.
Who doesn't want to do that?
It sounds fun, enchantment recursion. I'm a big Enchantress player.
Neither of us have played this deck.
I'm a big Enchantress player.
Played a lot of enchantments,
Yeah.
but not this particular commander
Let me
yet.
tell you, the backup commander for this deck is going right into Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil. Couldn't do a video without mentioning him.
Every video, I'm going to mention Tom Bombadil.
Next on our list is another deck from, well, the only other deck from the Brothers War, and that's Mishra's Burnished Banner.
This is a weird one. This one's like Grixis. I believe the name of the tokens are Mishra's Warform or Mishra's Warforge. Basically, you're going to be creating tokens that are copies of your more powerful artifacts. So you're going to have like a 4/4 copy that goes away of some other more powerful artifact you have in play. It's very combo-y, but it's also not infinite, which is what we like.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely what we like in our local group. Next up, we are finally going back to New Capenna.
Yeah, finally.
I'm going to butcher this. Maestros? Mistros
Keep it going.
Massacre.
There you go.
There we go. That's the name of the deck.
Another Grixis deck right off the back. This is one I'm pretty familiar with. Basically, you are going to be using stuff like Murmuring Mystic or Talrand to create a bunch of little tokens, which you can then sacrifice when casting spells to copy them. Yeah, so it's just kind of like a spell aristocrats type thing. I like it a lot. It's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Next up is Exit from Exile. I'm not familiar with this one at all.
I'm very familiar with this one. You've played against this one.
I've played against probably all of these in some
maybe.
form or fashion.
This is another one of my personal favorites that I own. This is Faldorn. So picture Prosper, but instead of making treasures, you're going to make wolf tokens. So you kind of just slowly grind your value engine. Your first 2 to 4 turns are literally just ramping. You're going to hopefully have about 6 mana by turn 4 or 5. And then Crater Hoof. Crater Hoof with all your wolves.
Everybody loves a Crater Hoof.
Yep.
Everybody loves a Crater Hoof.
I
So
know I do.
we're going into our next 5 in Tier 3. So far, so good.
I think so.
We don't have any disagreements. Yeah. And here we go. The next 5 are Legends Legacy. This is the Dominaria United deck?
Yep, we're going back to back on another one of my pet decks. This is Dihada, Binder of Wills. This is Legend Ball. You just play legendaries, make treasures, abuse your graveyard, and win. It's really fun, really consistent, really aggro, and out of the box, you can use either this one or the backup commander, Shannon, and do just fine. Shannon lets you draw cards when you play legendary spells or play legendary lands. Either form, you'll have card advantage, and that's what I like about this deck the most.
Perfect. Next up is Draconic Rage. Is this the newer D&D?
Nope, this is the Forgotten Realm. They both
Forgotten
have the
Realms.
Draconic name in it, which
They
is
do.
kind of silly.
Well, it's D&D.
True. This one's all about rolling dice to make dragons. So Rhonda has the Enrage mechanic, which will let you...
Oh, this is the green
Yeah,
rat. This
yes.
is the, yeah, I'm familiar
Yep.
with this.
This is a really fun
This
deck.
is the dragon that doesn't fly, right?
Nope, he does not fly. I think it's just goofy. Like, you're just rolling dice to make dragons. It's a fun deck to play. Yeah.
That's it. We don't have
Not much else to say.
Not much.
Roll dice, make dragons.
All right.
What
Next up is the Hosts of Mordor. This is another Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I think
Pre-constructed deck.
this is our third of the Lord of the Rings decks.
Yep.
This is the Sauron Dark Lord deck, which comes in, amasses, and reanimates a creature.
Mm-hmm.
This deck really focuses on your orc armies and that kind of synergy from this set.
Right.
The backup commander might be a little bit better out of the box because it amasses when you cast spells or amasses when your opponents cast spells. One of the two. It's Saruman. But yeah, it's just kind of Grixis recursion, so to speak. And it's got some really powerful, sought-after cards out of the box as well.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Next up is Mind Flayers.
This is the Baldur's Gate Dimir deck with Captain Nagathrod. This is Horrors, and it's also Mill. So another blue-black Mill deck, right?
Seems to be the way to go for blue-black. Yep.
Blue-black tribes and blue-black Mill, I guess. This is cool. You kind of just manipulate your opponent's graveyards by milling them, and then you can take artifacts and creatures out of their graveyard and gain control of them. And it's not even its own turn; it's just you gain control of them. This is another fun one out of the box. It's any of these Mill decks I think are pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Mill.
Not
a fan.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, not a fan of Mill. Unless I'm playing Two-Headed Giant, and we're both playing Mill. Then sign me up for a little fun.
Yeah, Bruvok, and you have Bruvok.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
That sounds awful.
All right, last but not least in Tier 3 is Spirit Squadron.
This one, and again, some of the ones probably at the top of Tier 4 can probably just float around. But this is another one that I'm a big fan of. It's Millicent, Restless Revenant, and she costs 1 less for each spirit you control, each non-token spirit. So she starts off at 7 mana, but on turn 4, you just play her for 2.
Gotcha.
Yep. And it's just all about flying. And funnily enough, at least in our local meta, there's not a lot of flying, I've noticed. So
Gotcha.
I think this deck will do strong out of the box, do very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So as we get ready for Tier 4, we're halfway through the list. And we don't think any of these decks are unplayable.
No, I've played a lot of decks from every one of these tiers, and then they can all do just fine. Yeah.
We wanted to rank them, so we're going to rank them. But we don't find anything unplayable. And some of the lower tier ones, you can actually buy at a bargain.
Yep.
You know,
Since Ikoria,
$35, $45.
Yeah,
Some of those are still worth buying, even further down in tiers 4, 5, and 6 here.
Since Ikoria, I don't think Wizards made like an actually bad precon. I think they're all playable now.
Well, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, there might be a few.
Out of
I
the
mean,
box,
obviously, we're ranking
yeah.
them in 6 tiers, so some of them are certainly
But with
worse
a few
than others.
minor tweaks to even some of the tier 6 ones, you can be right on par with your tier 1s. And that's kind of what we're going at.
Yep. Yeah. All right, let's start off tier 4. Elven Council.
So our last Lord of the Rings deck, and sadly the worst. However, it is Elf Tribal, and that's its saving grace, because your Elf Tribal just kind of has this thing where it plays a lot of stuff, and you don't really have to have a game plan.
Is it not comparable to the Elven Empire precon? Are they not close?
Lathril, at the head of the Elven Empire precon, is a lot stronger than the face commander Galadriel.
Gotcha.
Galadriel has
so it really comes down to that.
I believe so. And you have black, and then you have blue.
Correct.
And Galadriel is a Will of the Council commander, so she does voting and such. Which another thing is, I don't quite like to give my opponents a choice, but this is supported by the fact that it's still Elf Ball.
So you're in all the way.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Call for Backup.
This is a March of the Machine.
Yes.
Yeah, March of the Machine.
We're going to get into a lot of those.
Yep. This is another one that I own where I swapped out the face commander for the backup commander. Shalai and Halar, I think, is the best bet out of the box. It will deal damage to your opponent, to a target opponent, for each counter you place on permanents you control, which is pretty gross. It's a Naya. A lot of counter doubling. It's just kind of aggro, point a laser at somebody.
Another one of those where you add your doubling season, you add
your parallel
lives, and you're good, right? Cheap, add a couple of cheap $5 cards.
Even a Hardened Scales.
There you go. That is
right?
cheap. That is cheap. That was recently reprinted. You could definitely get that.
That's not cheap. Never mind.
Yeah. No, the Ozolith just got reprinted too.
Yeah, but it's still like $22.
Well, it's cheaper than the other two.
Yeah, well, doubling season's coming next.
Yeah, not $22 next.
No, definitely not.
All right, next up is Divine Convocation.
This is another March of the Machine. This is Jeskai Convo tokens, I call it, because you are casting a lot of spells with Convoke, and those spells with Convoke will make you tokens, and you can in turn use those tokens to convoke out more spells. So it just kind of goes wide, and you can play either the face commander Castlo or the backup commander, which is a variant of Geist of St. Traft.
But it's not Geist of St. Traft.
No, it's Traft and I think.
I'm familiar. Yes.
But yeah, it's just going to go wide. Jessica's kind of gone a direction of go wide. I see in recent times with this.
They've really tried to go aggro. We've covered Jeskai and Esper decks being kind of not even mid-range decks, just kind of aggro
which is
decks
really
and tempo
interesting
decks.
because we'll see further down the list some other Jeskai and Esper decks that are more traditionally Jeskai and Esper.
Yeah, more of a control aspect to them. Next up is Timeless Wisdom.
Speaking of that, there's another Jeskai deck.
That's weird. We're both familiar with this deck.
I'm very familiar with this deck.
This is Gavi. She's all about cycling cards.
Your first card you cycle is free on each turn.
Yep. I am not a fan of that. No. I actually played the backups in this. I played Braylon and Shabraz.
As did I during our first pre-con league. First two pre-con leagues, I played Braylon and Shabraz.
Yep. I have now have this deck built to the hill in my collection, and
this is the deck we probably do have the most experience with this one. Honestly.
Yeah, between the both of us, this is the deck we both own. We both played it out of the box and
upgraded quite a bit.
In the league, in pre-con, I did play the cycling. I didn't upgrade it until a wheel deck until after the league.
Interesting.
Out of the box, I don't know. I just tried to play a control deck where the cycling matters was just a way to try and generate card advantage, which there are spells in there that allow you to do things when you cycle to net you more cards.
And Gavi also makes bodies when you cycle as well.
Yeah. It's fun. It's a fun deck no matter which way you build it.
Yeah, out of the box, I think for maybe your first 1 or 2 weeks you want to stick with Gavi, but by then I am making the transition already to Braylon and Shabraz because they are bonkers.
Yep, and the cycle cards matter to them as well.
Yeah, that's what's great.
There's better cards than them. I mean, over a full upgrade, there's a lot better cards to go to, but
it's easy to make the switch, and you don't have to change too much.
Correct. Moving on is Land's Wrath.
This is the opposite.
Zendikar Rising, right?
Yep, the opposite of Anawan, and another deck I've owned and played. Naya Landfall, and out of the box, it's a little bit clunky but still strong. So it plays like you want to make Obun, the head commander, as big as possible and keep cracking in with him for Voltron, but you're also making a lot of tokens to arm your defenses, so to speak. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, we're going to be moving on to our next set of 5 decks for Tier 4. Let us know what you guys think in the comments about our reviews so far. What tragic injustices we've done.
Let us know how wrong we are
compiling this list.
I read the comments.
I don't. So yeah, I don't know. We did it for fun. Something we wanted to do.
I enjoy this.
So on the back half of Tier 4, we have Silver Quill Statement.
This is my sleeper pick.
Is this the black-white deck?
Yep, this is my sleeper pick from Strixhaven. I think this is the one that's going to go under the radar. This deck has Brina the Demagogue at the front, which manipulates your opponents into attacking each other and gives them a little bit of benefit here, but you're also getting some benefit. This deck can Brina can get very scary as she's attacking your opponents with impunity as they're attacking also your opponents. And it kind of turns into like a 1 or 2 hit clock with Brina as it goes. Don't sleep on Silver Quill Statement. That's all I'm gonna say.
Sounds like it's a good deck.
Yeah.
I've never played it. Next up is another new Capenna deck, and it is Cabaret
Cacophony.
Yep,
like
that's what I meant to say.
Indeed.
I'm not familiar with this deck at all.
I've played this one. This is the Naya Token Goad. It's kind of what I kind of go with it. So in the Precon itself, there's a few token cards, like there's a Scoot Swarm, but Kit Kanto, the commander, there's a few other goading cards. It makes tokens, and as it makes tokens, it buffs creatures your opponents control so that they're goaded and will attack, obviously your opponents at the same time.
Right. Yep.
There's been a bit of goad support recently.
There's even some in the new set.
Yes, yeah.
One of the new Commander Masters decks have a card that references goad. I forget what it is.
I do as well. I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that exists. There's also a card that references remember those enchantments that I wanted to play in Feldergriff?
Oh gosh, the
Val ones.
Yeah,
they
Val
created
Wilderness.
a card that they referenced the Val word. Yeah.
I know one of the decks has a new impetus as well. That's I think the one you're talking about.
That's another Feldergriff card.
One,
yeah, that's terrific news. All right, I think they're ready to hear about a card that's probably going to surprise many, or a deck that's going to surprise many that it's this low. And that's the last Warhammer deck.
Oh, yeah.
The Ruinous Power.
I own...
This is the Abaddon deck.
Yeah, I own and play all 4 of the Warhammer decks. And out of the box, because what my friends and I did in Florida is we all got them, I supplied them, we all played them out of the box and kind of left them unchanged for like a month to get a feel for them. This deck, with some changes, especially swapping to the backup commander Be'lakor, and maybe 2 weeks worth of patience, is great. It's awesome. I love Be'lakor. But out of the box, it wants to pull you in 2 different directions. It wants you to cast spells. It wants you to play demons. It's really embracing the chaos
that they are
theme that it's supposed to be about. I mean, Abaddon's literally called the Chaos Defiler or something like that. But it's just it goes to many different directions. But with some minor tweaking, can play very strong.
So its upside is there, but out of the box, you see that we've put it at Tier 4.
Yep.
Moving on, Vampiric Bloodline. Is this our first Crimson Vow deck?
And this is our second Crimson Vow deck.
Oh, we did our... Yes, we did. That's the blue... Reap the Tides, correct?
No, Spirit Squadron.
Spirit Squadron.
The Spirits,
there we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So...
Everybody's learning today.
First time I played this deck, I didn't really take the time to read my commander, so I thought I was reanimating stuff from my graveyard by sacrificing blood tokens. That's not at all. You're going to be cheating stuff from your hand and cheating mana cost instead. It's a really interesting take on a vampire tribal deck. I think that the blood tokens make it want to go a couple of, again, kind of pulling in 2 different ways. A little bit more along the same path, but still pulling apart a little bit. Out of the box, again, a few upgrades, you'll do fine. Yeah.
Perfect. And here we go. Is this our last new Capenna deck? Riveteer's Rampage.
We have one more after this.
One more.
This is the Henzi Toolbox Torre deck, which lets you play things with Blitz, and then lets you reanimate the Blitz cards from your graveyards.
Yep.
So you're cheating creatures in early, smacking early, aggro, and then you're also getting value when those things die, because they die at the end of turn if they're blitzed. Not much else to say. It's with a little bit of tweaking, it does really well.
That rounds out tier 4.
Yeah.
So 2 tiers left, and like we said earlier, just because they're in tier 5, tier 6, tier 4, doesn't make these decks unplayable by any means.
One of my favorite decks is in tier 5. So
the only 2 decks that I own, other than Feldergriff, we've already covered, and they both came from tier 3 and tier 4.
Tier 4, yeah.
Yeah. So, don't take it. This isn't gospel, right? Don't take this as tier 6 has got to be awful deck.
Hardest truth you've ever heard in your life. We are the be-all end-all for all of this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's definitely some solid decks in tier 6s we'll cover. Mm-hmm. There's some that maybe you want to stay away from, but I don't know. I don't find it to be awful.
The way I see it is you can take a Precon and you can compete with any other Precon, and that's based on your piloting skills.
And if you're going to upgrade it, if you're going to put another $1,500 into it, you'll be fine.
I should hope so.
Yeah.
I mean,
put a few dollars into it.
Yeah, $10 a week, right?
$10 a week.
We'll stick with that.
You'll be fine. Here we go. Tier 5. We're going to kick it off with a brand new deck, Planeswalker Party. This is the most disappointing deck on this list.
It really does feel that way, doesn't it?
It's not particularly close for me. This is the Planeswalker deck from the new set Commander Masters. It's probably better than I'm going to give it credit for. I have not played it because I refused to after I saw it.
I have not.
I think this deck could be dead last on this list.
It could be.
It could certainly be dead last.
And it's such a shame because
the Planeswalker Commander is cool.
Commodore Guff is so cool. Yeah. He's so dope, and I want to see him shine. But he will not shine in this Precon. But again, we could be totally wrong, but just from a face value, face look.
This needs probably a couple $100 to really be at least what I envisioned it to be out of the box. Mm-hmm. I find that a Planeswalker deck, when it's in the title, cannot have less than 20 Planeswalkers in it.
I mean, if
just my opinion.
If you're playing a Planeswalker deck, I'd stick around the number 25. Like it's.
I mean, if I play a tribal deck, I mean, we're talking about closer to 40, but those things matter. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm just disappointed on this one. Maybe we'll have to edit this video down the road and eat our words. Eat our words on this one.
Or we'll edit it in a snippet and we'll put it in tier 7.
Yes, or we'll create a new tier for it.
Right.
But that is the Planeswalker Party. If you want to play some cool, janky Planeswalkers and some Planeswalker support and not enough board wipes to keep you from dying while your Planeswalkers do things, this is definitely the deck for you.
Go for it.
Go for it. Let's move on to a March of the Machines deck.
Yep.
Cavalry Charge.
This is the Return of Eminence.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the Sidar, new version of Sidar. It's Esper Knight aggro. Again, Esper aggro. You're going to draw cards and return knights from your graveyards to the battlefield and kind of has a little bit of a reanimation theme. I just felt like compared to the decks put above it, that out of the box, it needs just a bit more tweaking than the others to be ready to go.
There you go. There you've heard it. We are now looking at Corrupting Influence.
Yes, this is from not March of the Machine. This is the Phyrexia All Will Be.
Yes. I'm surprised to see this one this low.
I was about to say this one could probably float up to tier 4.
Is this the Atraxa deck?
This is the Ixhel Sign of Atraxa, yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I don't like it, I am not the biggest fan of relying on your opponents to play your deck. So Ixhel, if your opponents are corrupted, steals cards from your opponent's decks to play. And I'm not a big fan of that. I'd rather have my game plan, my deck, stick to my deck, and well, maybe your opponents are just not playing strong decks. That means that you're not going to have a strong deck.
Get strong cards, yeah.
Yep.
So I was surprised to see this one so low, but after explanation, it makes sense to me. The next one also is a little low on our list. I thought we could have raised it a little bit, but again, I haven't played with it. But it's Painbow. This is from the Brothers War, or no, Dominaria United.
A very, very fond and dear to my heart pet deck of mine. This is 5 color and counters matter. Out of the box, this suffers
probably from the same issues that the Sliver deck
but
does.
Almost worse. A majority of the land base out of the box is tapped tri-lands, slow fetches, and tapped dual lands.
That is exactly what the Sliver deck is.
At least this one has Cascading Cataracts. Like that's the only redeeming grace for it.
Yeah.
But really, unlike Slivers, where I feel like Slivers just are bouncing off each other, making your board crazy. Mm-hmm. This deck doesn't have so much of a clear game plan other than play 5 color spells. And so in that nature, it's a little bit slow out of the box.
Doesn't have the same power level, if all things being equal, that they have all 5 colors. The Sliver deck is certainly the stronger of the two.
It's definitely slow out of the box. You're not going to have your game plan up and running until probably turn 6.
No?
Doesn't have a Soul Ring. Only Precon ever not to have a Soul Ring.
No kidding. Yeah. Did the Sliver deck have a Soul Ring?
Most likely. Those ones probably want to play...
I don't remember.
Colorless Mana.
I don't even remember.
But yeah, this is a deck that I own and I've modified heavily to... an Amulet of Vigor solves all your problems.
There you go.
A Birds of Paradise, Bloom Tender.
Another $100 card. Go buy it.
I think I just maybe said $30 in cards. Not too bad.
All right.
Not too bad.
Next up is Dungeons of Death.
I believe this is our final Forgotten Realms deck.
That was a good cycle of decks.
Really good. And this one being the weakest does not make it a bad deck. However, it is clunky. And it introduces the dungeon mechanic. And that's kind of why I ranked it so low. That's why I ranked it so low, is because if you are not experienced with dungeon delving and adventuring into the dungeon, then this is going to be a nightmare for you to play.
You got to have all those token cards off to the side. Yeah, it's a nightmare for sure.
But this is also one of those precons where I think it's 8 cards, but out of the box can go infinite. I don't remember exactly what the cards were, but so if you can assemble that, good on you.
There you go.
That's about all I got for that.
All right. So that's that for the top half of Tier 5. We have 4 more decks to go. So let's dive into it. We're going to start with another Strixhaven deck.
I think it's our last one.
Witherbloom Witchcraft.
Yep. This is the Willow Dusk, which puts counters on a creature equal to the life you've gained. It's just, it's alright. I've never been a big fan of life gain as a strategy in Magic. It just feels pointless to me, like you're not winning the game, you're simply prolonging the inevitable. I don't know, I have just my own...
It's not a win condition.
Yeah, I have my own qualms with it, but that's
I think it's an alright way to get there, especially if you're on a control shell or a combo shell.
That's different.
So necessary.
This deck just wants to kind of drain and gain, but the drain is lacking, whereas the gain seems to be a lot heavier. And Cousin Tyler, he might disagree with me completely, because he played this deck in the Precon Leagues, and I have actually not physically played, but I played against it a bit.
Up next is the other Draconic deck, Draconic Descent.
This one is Baldur's Gate and cares about goading. And
that's a blue-red deck, right?
Yeah, that's why it kind of suffers, for me, at least in my opinion, a bit like the Ixhel Corrupting Influence deck, where if you don't got much to goad, then what are you going to be doing for most of your game here?
It's true.
Furkrag goads creatures when he hits. I believe he draws cards when goading creatures attack or block or something of the like. But it's just not much you can really do when your opponents are not playing combative decks. I don't play a lot of combative decks. I'd prefer to win without creatures.
Yeah. Same, unless they're slivers. Next up is it our last new Capetta deck?
Yes.
It is. Is it Bedecked Brokers?
This deck is goofy.
All right.
This deck's really
Tell us
goofy.
about it.
This is Perry the Pulverizer.
He's got a great name.
He's got a great name. Another near and dear pet deck of mine. Perry the Pulverizer. He enters the battlefield he's 1 in BAMP. He enters the battlefield. He puts a shield counter on a creature you control, normally on himself. Mm-hmm. When he attacks, target creature gets +X and trample until end of turn, where X is the number of different kinds of counters among permanents you control. So you play Perry, hopefully turn 3. Turn 4, you're swinging and you got a 9/9 with trample. And it's just so fun and stupid. And I mean, like, you play like Jar of Eyeballs, which makes like eyeball counters. Helix Pinnacle, which has tower counters. All these random
bad magic
cards that just make Perry smack for hard. And that's why it's lower, is because without Perry, your deck is like...
But I bet it has a lot of those bad cards in it to begin with.
You'd be shocked.
How could Wizards of the Coast screw up a bad deck?
A lot of them, it's a lot of...
A deck that needs bad cards.
It's a lot of charge counters, like in the Precon, and a lot of new types of counters. So there's like the Avian Mimeomancer, which puts like feather counters.
Plus, they recently made it so like a card doesn't get trample, it gets a trample counter, right? Is that a thing that they did?
There are trample counters, they exist.
So there is ways to do normal things with counters.
I don't know. Perry's, he's just funny. He's goofy. If you want to play Voltron and then kill 1 or 2 players and just get absolutely gobsmacked after that, this is the deck for you.
This is the deck for you. Finishing second. Nothing wrong with that.
None at all.
It's a worse Feldergriff deck. And rounding out Tier 5 is Upgrades Unleashed.
This is one of the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty decks.
Yep.
And I found both of those to be...
Is this the green-blue one? Or green-red one?
Green-red.
Yeah.
Those two are a bit disappointing. However, I think this is the better of the two. It cares about modified creatures. And whenever you...
You can play those in your counter deck.
Right?
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
We just got to merge the last 2 decks together into one.
Yep.
We can do it.
You put counters on creatures at the end step. You make red spirit tokens when you cast. I believe it's auras or equipments. And it... I pulled a Chishiro, which is the face commander, from a pack. I made a whole deck around him without the Precon. But Chishiro himself has an actually decent amount of power. I just think that the Precon curve is a little bit high. So if you trim down on some of those janky cards that don't really want to fit your game plan, you'll run with the big boys.
There you go. All right. So here we are. We're getting ready for the last tier, Tier 6. Mm-hmm. And as we've said a few times in the video, we find that all these decks are playable out of the box, especially if you're going to spend $50, $100 to do some upgrades to them. They're all perfectly fine. If they're in the colors you want to play, if they do things that you want to do, don't hesitate.
Yeah, for sure.
Get the one that looks to be the most fun for you.
That's what Commander's all about. It's a form of self-expression, I think, in your deck building. And a lot of these decks, a few of these decks in Tier 6 are ones that I really enjoy playing as well.
Yep, and there's some in Tier 1 that I would have zero interest in.
Absolutely, agreed.
Necron Dynasties does nothing for me. The Food and Fellowship deck does nothing for me.
Oh, but the food deck's so fun!
The Elven Empire... Actually, I gotta be honest, there's far more decks that I would play in Tier 3 than there is in Tier 1.
Fair enough.
None of them. Eldrazi Unbound, that doesn't do it for me. There's just not a lot in Tier 1 that excites me. But that's just me. And, I want to play Slivers. That's all there is to it.
You're a simple man. You just
I
want to play Slivers.
I want to play Slivers and Dinosaurs, man. That's all. Occasionally I grab a Hippo, but that's it.
Oh, the Hippo. I love it. I love the Hippo.
We don't have that built to the hill because you can't build that to the hill.
I feel like you're... Yeah, I can't even justify how you can't build that to the hill.
You can't. It's Tier 7, Feldergriff. Feldergriff built to the best of my ability is worse than all of the decks on this list. So that's our honorable mention.
When you play against Feldergriff, you're playing against the player and not the deck. That's a deck where it's just really the player just, hey, I'll help you out.
You know what? Before we get to Tier 6, we have an honorable mention.
Do we?
Yes. The Secret Lair, Tails I Win.
Oh!
Or Tails You Win, Heads I Lose, or whatever
and
it's called.
And there's also the Cute to Brute one as well.
Cute to Brew. I'm not familiar with that.
That's the prismatic bridge. It plays all the flip cards and the really pretty art.
Sweet. So we're going to rank those Tier 5.5. Those are your honorable mentions. I actually own the Tails I Win.
That's a fun deck to
and
play.
I've never opened it.
It's really fun to play.
Still sitting on the back counter. Maybe I'll open it someday.
And you should play it in a Precon League.
I don't know if that's allowed. I'll have to check into it.
You're the one.
I'll have to check with somebody important about that.
Is this allowed? Yeah, you're good. All right, cool. There we go.
We've checked into it. All right, here we go. Last but not least, tier 6. You get some good value out of some of these. So let's jump right in. We'll start with the March of the Machine deck.
Yep.
Tinker time.
So this is Face Commander Gimbal. He's a tinkerer.
I imagine so.
He's a little tinker gremlin guy. He's pretty funny. Your artifact creatures have trample, and I believe you make tokens, and they get +1/+1 counters for each differently named artifact token that you have, or something of that effect. It's something that I think Wizards have been trying to do a lot lately. Just kind of like on the down low, is make these like junk decks,
right,
where you turn literal cards that are scrap tokens that do nothing other than exist into something more profitable in a win condition. And I think that was a good attempt at this. But the deck is tailored around Gimbal when the backup commander Rashmi is just oodle stronger. So
fair enough. Next on the list is Growing Threat.
It's another Marching Machine deck. This is the Brimaz, the Corrupted Brimaz, that wants to make artifact tokens, incubator tokens to be specific, and
there it is. Those need to be in your broker's deck.
Incubator tokens.
Yes, sir.
I will throw them in for absolutely no reason.
No reason whatsoever.
He's kind of like Phyrexian incubator try. He's weird. He's goofy. He puts counters on things. It's not terrible. Certainly, like I said, none of these decks are terrible, but just I don't know if this is what I want my black-white deck doing. I guess that's where it comes down to it.
Fair enough. That sums it up.
Yeah.
Next on the list is Rebellion Rising.
I believe that our other two Boros decks unfortunately made it into this tier, and this is one of them. This is the Nayali token Go Away that whenever a token deals damage, you impulse draw. Why not just give Boros draw?
Can't do it.
Why not just
always got to be some kind of
give us draw
caveat to it.
I guess so.
You got to loot or
an impulse drawing is not that bad. This deck is centered around the that 4 Mirrodin mechanic, so that you're casting creatures that make other little 2/2 rebels. It goes wide. It's fun. Downside, it's Boros.
Yeah,
that's it.
Red is, it's going to get cards like Gamble. It's going to get cards like Faithful Saluting, and it's going to get cards like Light Up the Stage. Like that's the best Red's going to get, and those cards are all good.
They are good.
But that's the closest you're ever going to get to searching or actually drawing.
Yeah.
Is that.
Well, this deck kind of fits into the Exit from Exile and Planar Portal type strategy, where you want to be casting stuff from Exile and you'll get your benefit from that. However, your benefit with this one comes not when you cast it, but when you deal combat damage, which is just what I don't like.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Next up is Buckle Up. This is the other Kamigawa deck.
Yep. Out of the box, this has Ikoria, the Pilot Prodigy, which lets you crew vehicles as though it had 2 greater power or something of the effect. I believe it's 1 white-blue. It also has one of my absolute favorite commanders of all time as a backup commander, Shorakai, Genesis Engine, who is a legendary vehicle who can be a commander. He's
Sweet.
Card advantage on a stick.
Went from not drawing to drawing all the time.
Absolutely. It's my favorite thing. Vehicles don't do a whole lot if they're not crewed. And that's kind of what this deck suffers from. If you
can't crew, you can't play, really.
If you swap the deck, the commander, to Shorakai, keeping Ikoria in the 99, and then flushed out the curve and flushed out a bit more control, this deck is awesome. Like, this deck that can be CEDH. I know because I played it in CEDH.
There you go. So a deck in the bottom tier all the way to the top.
Absolutely.
The last card pictured here is Prismari Performance. Surprised this deck is so low.
It's so sad out of the box. It's the 5th of the Strixhaven.
Yep.
It has Zephi, the Thunder Conductor, Thunder Orator. I believe there was a typo. The whole typo gate. He wants you to progress and cast spells with a bigger mana value for different payoffs, and the deck is just clunky in that manner because it wants you to try to cast axe spells. It wants you to try to cast these goofy 12 mana spells with discounts. if you switch to Veyran and focus more on triggering, just cards triggering, you'll do much better.
Yeah, Veyran is the way to play this deck.
That will shoot it
sure.
much higher. After
Not
that.
even close. That Veyran is the card to play.
But out of the box, no good.
All right. So now we're working into our last 4 decks in our tier, our tier 6 here. So let's get right to it and close this video out strong.
Absolutely.
Phantom Premonition.
This is the other Kaldheim deck.
Yep.
It is a deck I have tried for so long to make so good. And out of the box, you
can tell we're getting to the end here.
Out of the box, it's just a little tricky because it suffers from that. Do I want to make spirit tokens? Do I want to foretell? Do I want to focus on exiling? I don't know what to do.
This is the deck that I started Michelle with.
Yes, yeah, I remember that. We worked on that together. Yeah,
we tried to make this.
I have really tried
somewhat good
and I think it can be good. I think that if you focus on one of those 3 things, exiling spirits or foretell and exiling, which kind of go hand in hand, you'll do fine with it. And I think that it can hold its own. I think that it also just needs to have more control.
It needs to be a more precon or more of a control deck
out of the box. It just
Yep.
doesn't have much in the ways of dealing with your opponents.
Yep. Which is unfortunate because a lot of the foretell cards in those colors are control cards.
Yeah, it doesn't have a Doomscar in the precon.
Yeah, no Doomscar. You're going to need that Doomscar.
For sure.
Next up is Arm for Battle.
Boros.
More Boros.
This is the Wyleth Steel Shaper, or Soul of Steel deck that cares about how many equipment you have attached to Wyleth so you can draw cards. It's just, the problem with Boros Voltron is, that's a nice creature with 25 power you have there, Path to Exile. Like, oh, cool.
Sad face.
There goes everything I just worked hard on.
Yep.
It's got some really good reprints. That's what really carries this one. There's a Sigarda's Aid, some really cool equipments. And if you throw in like a Pure Steel Paladin or some other creatures that care about being equipped or equipment, I feel like you can take this farther and actually hold your own.
So it's got a lot of growth.
Yeah, it has a very
high
strong
ceiling.
potential. Yeah,
high ceiling.
For sure.
All right. Next up is Enhanced Evolution.
Our last 2 decks are the last 2 Ikoria decks.
Yep.
All I gotta say is Mutate.
This is the Mutate machine.
Mutate was. I'm not gonna call it a mistake. I'm gonna call it an accident. I don't think Mutate is what they intended it to be. There's just so much confusion and convoluted sequencing and creatures. It just adds so much unneeded confusion to the game. And similar to the previous deck, that's a nice creature you mutated 6 other creatures onto. It's dead.
It's dead. And so are all of them.
And that's the face commander of that one would be Otrimi, who lets you mutate early from the command zone as his base power 6/6. Yeah. It's not bad.
It is a big power toughness.
It's not bad. I've played all the Ikoria decks, but it's...
You ready for the last one on our list?
It's the last Ikoria.
Number 58, last one in Tier 6, is Symbiotic Swarm.
This is the Cathril Aspect Warper. And this one, for me, just... It's weird. It's just weird. These last 2 decks are just weird. It wants you to put cards like Zetalpa, or cards that are just loaded with keyword soup, Achroma, into your graveyard so that when Cathril enters, it gets each keyword that you have in your graveyard as a counter. So this was the first set that introduced those ability counters like we talked about earlier.
Yep.
And it suffers from it's dead now. Like, because you just respond to the ETB, and if there's an indestructible counter, you're just gone. I've seen this deck just suffer too much. However, I've also seen it stick out games it should not have won.
Right. Yeah.
Every deck can do that. Every deck on this list can stick out a game that it theoretically should not win.
Especially if it's playing against other decks on this list.
Yeah.
Right. If you're just playing with a field of all these decks, yeah, we ranked them, but honestly,
like we said, Planeswalker Party.
You got to politic too. Yeah. You got to sit down and politic at your table.
Oh, for sure.
That'll help get any of these decks to the end.
Politicking is super important, and I think that depending on the skill level of the player, you could pilot any of these decks to victory, no matter what tier they'd be in. So,
yep.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you either learned something or were entertained by it.
I should hope so.
Yeah. So until next time, Josh and I in Crossover Games, we'll catch you on the next one.
See you soon.